Hello and welcome to Basildon's Retire Well TV. I'm your host, Paul Gebhardt, with our good friend, Simon Rogers of Basildon Financial. Welcome, Simon.
Welcome, Paul.
It's good to see you again, my friend.
Same here, same here.
So last show, we got to get a little bit of an education, and I'm kind of a nut for education. By the way, teachers are like that's my weak point. I love our teachers. I think they do an incredible job. Yeah. So thank you for the lesson. Yeah. Because I'll think a lot of times, all of us, we want to kind of bury our head in the pillow, right?
Yeah.
The tax debt and all these things that are happening, we just keep thinking, oh, maybe if I don't think about it, it'll go away. Yeah. But that's not reality.
No. Oh, my gosh. Or it's the government's problem. It's not mine, but it is all of ours collectively.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I know none of us out there want the government to solve our problem. We got to be in control of solving our problems, right?
Yeah.
We have to take control of that.
Yeah.
You mentioned before, when we had a wonderful story shared about Ronald Reagan and what he did and how it was a little bit personal, which is phenomenal. I have even a whole nother level of respect for that guy. Yeah. But you mentioned inflation being one of the other byproducts of this mess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of so inflation. We kind of have a good rough idea of what it is. Yeah. It's, it takes more money the next year to buy what we got last year with this, same amount of money. So, another analogy could be like if you have one Babe Ruth trading card, it could be priceless, or let's say it's 10 million bucks. But if you found a warehouse of another 10,000 of them, this isn't worth the same anymore.
No, you're right.
Why? Because there's a whole bunch of them now.
Absolutely.
It's worth something because there's like one or very few of them.
Supply demand, right?
Yeah, and the same thing with the money supply. So when they printed, I don't know the final number now because some of it is they put it into the budget and they didn't really release it with COVID, but 6 to 7 trillion is roughly in the neighborhood of the damage so far, and we're not out of the woods yet. We're not fully back open. The vaccines are in progress, but we'll have to see how it all plays out. That's a lot of money printing.
Boy, no doubt.
Yeah. And so that's kind of like finding that warehouse. Maybe not 10,000 Babe Ruth cards, but maybe 200, 300, kind of devalues the one card. And so that basically is the concern that we have right now with the enormous amount of debt. Now, in that last show, we were talking about a household where I took the trillions and whittled it down by crossing out 8 zeros.
And by the way, I love the way you did that because it really brought that home for me. I'm sure it did for you too out there. But that was just a wonderful analogy. So again, thank you. But continue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So we had that analogy of a household, and we could grasp what the government is really doing and how they're really functioning right now. The difference, if that was a true household and they had $650,000 of debt and 34 coming in and spending $44,000, they're looking at bankruptcy.
I was just thinking the word, that word that you don't want to spew, but it's that's the only option at that point.
Yeah. Now that for a household, but the government's a little different. They've got this thing called a printing press, and they can just roll out, $100 bills and print their way out of it. But that's just like, manufacturing more Babe Ruth cards.
Yeah.
You devalue the currency, the value of the currency. So we've had extreme devaluation going on since, really honestly, since 2008, where we've just mushroomed the debt. Kind of out of this world. I mean, it wasn't that long ago where it was $4 trillion. And, personally, back in the 80s, I lived in Connecticut, and I took the train into the city, and there was a debt clock. Yeah. And I was alarmed back then. And if I remember correctly, it was like 800, 900 billion. And then in the 90s, I was a big Ross Perot fan because I'm a fiscal responsibly kind of guy.
I was too, actually.
Were you? Yes. Yeah.
It was kind of funny that you said that.
I mean, he's just a straight-up guy. Yeah. He's just like, he's a self-made billionaire. Okay, you know what you're doing.
Yes.
And then he just spoke plain English to the people. And it's like, okay, that's, big numbers and big stuff.
And why not give a businessman a chance, right?
Yeah,
something different. Yeah.
And I think, we got into this place. Why? Because, in order to fix it, as we talked in that last show, we got to cut expenses, which means the government's got to lay people off or not hire people or cut back on spending, which is going to hurt personal paychecks and jobs are going to get lost.
And probably some critical programs eliminated, right?
Yeah, and they're going to have to raise taxes. I mean, it's so extreme now. We believe that both have to occur. Both of those are wildly unpopular. I mean, would you vote a politician back in if they jacked your taxes up, doubled them, or they fired your spouse?
Yeah.
So that's.
So just so that I'm not incriminated, you don't want to ask me what I would do when it comes to politicians. Okay.
Yeah.
Continue.
So we've got that they just keep kicking the can down the road, and then just print more money.
Yeah.
And so, in that last show where we kind of showed an example of, the history of taxation, where the top bracket in this country was 94%. And from 1936 to 1980, it was 70% or higher. And that's in our lifetime. And our taxes now are about half that. So the point is, it can go up.
Yeah.
Don't fool yourself.
You're basically saying, how long can we sustain that?
Yeah, I don't. Mathematically, we can't keep doing this. It's just. I mean, I guess we could, in theory, keep tax rates where they are, but we're going to have to keep printing ridiculous amounts of money, in which case our buying power, inflation's going to go through the roof, and our buying power is not going to be there. But I think both things are going to happen, honestly. I think we're printing so much money, we're going to have hyperinflation.
Yeah. Well, aren't we seeing some of that now, actually?
I think so. I think it's showing up in certain areas.
Yep.
Right?
I agree.
So, and I think that's one of the things that are pushing the stock market up. But, gas prices, you go to the grocery store, I walk out with 2 bags, and it's like $80. And I'm like, right. What did I buy? Gold?
Don't you get me started. I got a couple of teenagers at home. One of them's a pretty big boy. Plays football. Man, can he eat.
Yeah.
So I know every time Mom has gone to the grocery store, guys, I can see it in the accounts.
Yeah.
It went from here to
he ate again. Yeah.
It's like, wow. Sorry, I had to throw that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, buddy.
So I think we're feeling that, and we kind of know it intuitively, and just the math, the numbers, it's got to come home to roost at some point.
Yeah.
And the taxes have to come home to roost too, meaning they have to at some point go up. We can't just keep printing our way out of this.
Yeah.
So, if you're in retirement and you don't have a plan that factors in what if tax rates double, because like I said, in our lifetime, yours and mine, it was 70% or higher. And now it's in the 30s. Yeah. So that's conceivably could double again in our lifetime.
Right.
And so, pull out your last year's tax return and look at how much you paid, and then go, well, double that number, and then go, that's a decent likelihood of happening before your retirement's over. And so you got that, and then what if another thing happens, which is your money doesn't buy as much as it used to? And you got both of those working. Those are strong headwinds. It's like swimming upstream, or if you've ever tried to row a boat against the tide or against the stream, and you're putting all this effort in, you're kind of not really going where.
Yes.
So,
but all is not lost. My good friend Simon has some solutions, and we're going to get into some solutions in the next segment. But in the meantime, would you share with the viewer what you're offering today?
Yeah, sure. We'll sit down with you and review your current circumstances and look at the tax implications. And it's not really so much today and what you're going to pay next April. What it is we're going to look 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And we'll also put an eye towards your estate plan. And are your assets positioned for the best, minimizing the taxes with the estate planning too. So we'll go over all that with you, and then we'll also do like an income plan for you and show you how to generate streams of income that you can outlive, that can be there for you should, things, needed to be where you need more income down the road.
Good stuff. Well, listen, it's a complete complimentary call. The phone lines are open, so call, because there's limited availability. Call Simon and his team right away, 877-441-4901. We got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back after these messages. Stay with us, won't you?
Both my parents started off as university professors in England, so I think teaching's in my blood. What we do is very complicated, but we lay it out in a way that is very easy to understand.
It's just a matter of being able to convey the information that they need most to make the best decision for them.
You don't have to do what we do for a living to take a look at our plan and within a couple minutes totally grasp it. When you're teaching, you're really helping somebody learn. So I have a genuine love and desire and kind of a need, really, to help people. I think that comes from my heart. In England, you name your house like we name our dog. Every house has a name. And the house that my father was born at is my grandmother's house, and the name of her house was Basildon. Whenever I was over there, I felt safe, and I felt loved, and I felt taken care of, and I felt everything was okay. I strive to have our clients feel that same way.
Should something devastating happen, the last thing that they need to think about is, am I covered? Am I secure? How is this going to affect me financially? I think they need to focus on being well and spending time with the ones that they love.
They feel secure in that they can depend on us to do what we say we're going to do, to help them make the decisions that they need to make.
Hello and welcome back to Basildon's Retire Well TV. This is Paul Gebhardt with my host, Simon Rogers. Simon, good information, my friend. We were talking before, and some of the things and all the what's coming, right? And the worry and the inflation, and it's some daunting stuff.
Yeah.
And for the viewers out there, but there is a rainbow. There are solutions that can happen.
Yeah.
And you got some good stuff you can share with them if they come and meet with you, right?
Yeah. Any problem we have, our car, we go over a pothole, our car alignment gets knocked out. The sooner we take care of it, the better off we are. We're driving from Pennsylvania to California, and we want to continue to check the map to make sure we're on the way, because if we make a wrong turn in Carlisle, we may wind up in Seattle instead of Los Angeles. But if we realize that, by the time we get to Shippensburg, we can correct it. So, it's about constantly monitoring. And, our relationship with our clients is one of that nature. It is a long-term relationship, and it is a kind of family atmosphere, and we meet with people every year. Simply because, we want to make sure we're on that same map, that same road, and we do eventually get there and we see Los Angeles and not Seattle. So we want to have the outcome we desire that we've mapped out. So the first thing is to sit down with somebody like us and map out a plan, know exactly where you're going and why, what your goals are, and then check that plan periodically to make sure you're on track. Recently, we had the CARES Act, the Tax Act, so that changed things.
Right, I was
bit.
reading about that. There's some changes coming to that, isn't there?
Yeah, some significant changes. They changed the RMD. We mentioned that in another show. The required minimum distribution. I try not to use the acronyms when I can, but it's just the lingo. We use it so many times.
I totally get it. I get it.
So that's when you have your 401k, your traditional retirement money, non-Roth. You saved up. It's never been taxed. It used to be 70 and a half. You had to start taking money out whether you needed it or not. Now they moved that to 72. What else the CARES Act did was to change the stretch election. So in the last segment, we finished off with estate planning. And if you come into the office, we'll not only help you evaluate your current taxes, not just today, but 5, 10, 15 years down the road, and also with your estate plan, like after you're gone, are your assets set up in the best way to minimize taxes?
Yeah.
So a planning tool we used to be able to use. What we can still, it was what they call a stretch election. So mom and dad have an IRA, and they've got a couple kids, and they leave it to their children. And let's just say, for sake of argument, one of them is not so good with money. And the parents can put a stretch election. So when that child inherits that IRA, they have to take out a little bit each year for the rest of their lives. They can't just drain the entire account in 1 year. That helps. It helps with a couple things. One, it helps with kids that perhaps aren't so good with money, and gives them a nice stream of income. And sometimes we don't know if the kid's good with money or not.
Right.
They're doing well, but they've never had a huge chunk.
Exactly.
And I always like to talk about lottery winners, and they win $2-3 million, and you check back in on them, and 2 years later, and they're bankrupt.
It's gone. Yep.
And because they've never had a big chunk of money. So, your children, let's say you got a son and daughter-in-law, they're each making $100,000, and that's $200,000, and you got $400,000 you're going to leave to your son, and 200 to your son, 200 to your daughter. So you're thinking, well, my son and daughter-in-law make $200,000, I'm leaving them $200,000. It's not the same $200,000. Their $200,000 comes in a paycheck of about $2,500 every couple weeks, and your $200,000 comes all at once. And so it's very, very different. It takes them a year, and they're grossing 200, but they're netting like 150. So you're going to give them 200 right up front. It's a very different 200,000. So you don't know if they've never had a big chunk. So one of the planning tools we had with estate planning was a stretch election. So you kind of, we're going to give them the IRA, but we're going to force them to take it out a little bit at a time throughout their lifetime. The CARES Act took that away from us. Now that child has to take it out within 10 years. So this is another problematic thing. One, we've now had that tool taken away from us. Now there's other tools we can use in the toolbox. And I like to say, speaking of tools, you can have a ball peen hammer and you can have a sledgehammer. And if you want to hang a picture, obviously the ball peen hammer is the great thing to use, not the sledgehammer. A 10-pound sledge is not the thing to tap in a little nail. But if you got a big, ceramic tub you want to bust up, the ball peen hammer is going to take you all day. Right. And the 10-pound sledge will make it a lot easier. Yep. It's not the tool. The tools are great. It's the application of the tool.
I love that. That's good.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of tools in our toolbox, and the government keeps changing the tools, which is why you need an advisor that keeps meeting with you and, hey, this was your plan, this is the plan we put together for you, but guess what? The CARES Act just came along, and the government just took this away or changed this, but we can do this now. Or we can shuffle here, and it may be even better than it was, because maybe they changed something in a way that gives you a better opportunity.
So basically, you got a couple of nice tools that you can work to use to build a big shelter for your clients, right?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, we try our best to, reach the client's goals. We find out what the goals are, and then we look at where their assets are and how they're positioned, and then we try to, we develop custom plans that are unique to everybody in our office that come in our office, and then we monitor those plans. So when there's big changes like the Tax Act just did, we can go over that with the client and adjust the plan accordingly.
Fantastic. Well, listen, we're coming up to another break period here, and we're running out of slots. But one more time, would you offer that the complimentary greeting you're going to give them when they come see you, the consultation?
Yeah, great. So if you've loved what you've heard in the show today, and you're obviously watching, I think, because there's probably something missing. You feel like, because look, I'll put it to you this way. I don't cook. So you're never going to catch me watching a cooking show, right? So, because I don't need any of that information. So if you've tuned in today, I'm going to assume that there's something missing, like you need to learn something. And whether you know it in your head or you know it in your gut, there's something that you're not quite sure about. Yeah. You may be working with an advisor, or you may be self-advising and trying that. I would invite you to come in. It's a no obligation, complimentary meeting to sit down with us. We're, I feel, nice people, warm and friendly. We think we have good coffee. So we'll sit down, we'll evaluate your situation, we'll help you, we'll do a full-fledged written financial plan, which will include the tax planning. Go over and answer all your questions at no obligation to you, fully complimentary on the house. So if that interests you, kind of get those nagging questions that you have unanswered. That's why you're tuning in today, is to find out some more information. Get this resolved, because if you don't do that, guess what? Next week when the show comes on, that gnawing feeling's a little bit bigger because you didn't deal with it. So we can't make it any easier on you. The only thing you have to do is pick up the phone, and I'm sure somewhere in the tech world, somebody's working on technology that would, down the road, it'll enable me to kind of reach in and pick up the phone and dial it and hold it up to your ear. But I can't do that just yet. So
Yep, they're in control.
yeah, when that time comes, maybe we'll try it out.
Yeah.
But they have to take the step.
Absolutely. So listen, take control. Pick up the phone. Make a life-changing call. Let Simon and his team build that shelter for your nest egg. 877-441-4901. Stay with us. We'll be back after these short messages.
How do I handle my taxes? How do I do my estate planning? And there's just a myriad of questions and issues that they have that they just have never done before. You know, it's not always what we don't know, but it's what we don't know that we don't know.
I think that there's a lot of unknown out there. There's a lot of misinformation, and I've seen the effects that that's had.
A lot of our clients, our niche is helping people transition into retirement. They're retiring and they have a nest egg that they've been saving. They want to have somebody who knows the answers to the questions they have and help them through the decision-making process.
I believe that having all of the information in front of you in a way that you understand best is the best way that somebody's able to make a decision appropriate for what they need.
And no two plans are the same because no two clients are the same. My goal is they can kind of get up every day and year after year and see that the plan is working and that they don't have anything to worry about, so that they can put their focus on what's really important. You know, money's great, and we all need it to pay our bills, but to me, it's what the money's going to do for you. You're going to remember your trips. You're going to remember your great experiences with your loved ones. I mean, it's just waking up every day and it's Saturday morning. They work so hard for so long to retire. You earn everything. It makes it all worthwhile.
Welcome back to Basildon's Retire Well TV. I'm your host, Paul Gebhardt, with my good friend, Simon Rogers. Simon, again, thank you for just the amazing information you shared with us today.
Yeah.
In the break, we were talking, because you know I'm a big Western buff. Like, I love my Westerns. If any of you out there like Westerns like I do. And you can't love a Western without John Wayne, right?
Oh, yeah.
Come on, you got a John Wayne story for us.
I do, yeah. We were talking about estate planning.
Yeah.
And let me preface this with trusts were always the tool that was used, the primary tool was used for estate planning until the Second World War came along. And the GIs were getting shipped overseas, and then a will became popular, and they just kind of lined the GIs up and write down what you want and who you want it to go to and sign it, and that became a will. And then the will, you know, both of them are basically your wishes of how you want your assets directed after you're gone, right? So a will needs to go through probate. A trust doesn't need to go through probate. So trust was the original path, and then after World War II, it kind of, now the will became the dominant one. And so the John Wayne story is John Wayne's estate was in probate for over 27 years.
What?
Yeah.
27 years of
27
probate?
years in probate. Yep.
I mean, I knew the government was slow, but holy mackerel.
Yeah, well, we all know like court systems, court cases that kind of drag
27
on.
years?
Yeah. And the reason it was because he's famous. A lot of people loved him, and everybody kind of came out of the woodwork. Oh, John promised me this. I'm his long lost cousin, and blah 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 blah. And it kept, another new claim, and another back to court again, and then somebody else filed a claim, and back to court. Now that's an extreme example, but we all know John Wayne, and it's kind of drives the point home. So with probate, what you are signing up for, basically, if you have a will with probate, you're signing up to go through the court system. Mm-hmm. If you have a trust, which we kind of lean towards that as our favorite estate planning tool, a trust avoids probate. It's private. It's a private document between you and your attorney and your beneficiaries. So with that, you can set both up if you want, but it's and very often, a trust, you need a will, what's called a pour-over will, to get all the assets captured in the trust or in the estate that maybe didn't hit the trust. But anyway. They're great tools, and I do want to say this. People, when they hear trust, they think, oh, my God, I got to be worth millions for one of those.
Right.
And you don't. No. You actually don't. In fact, we use a house with, there's all kinds of different trusts. Two basic kinds are a revocable, which you can change, and an irrevocable, which you cannot change. So in irrevocable, one of the big advantages of that is once you put assets into it, you start the 5-year Medicare, Medicaid clock ticking. So if you wind up in a nursing home and those assets have been in that trust for 5 years, they're exempt from being spent down. So we often these days, because long-term care insurance, which used to be an option, my mother got a policy from me way back in 2002 when it was affordable.
And it was reasonable.
Now it's insane. We've had like 6 carriers out of 8 drop out of the business because they're losing money. Premiums have skyrocketed. It's not really a thing.
Well, healthcare costs are outrageous, bottom line.
Yeah, and nursing home costs out of the blue. We can still get that for clients if they want it, but it's basically that discussion's off. Has basically died out, and we were using trust. We put the house in the trust, and then it's protected from nursing home if they make the 5-year look-back period. So there's a myriad of estate planning. With the CARES Act, just changed that stretch election we were talking about in the last break, but there's so many more items that people could set up in their estate to help out, minimize taxes, and get exactly what they want.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we're coming down to the end, and it's coming down to this. We've got a few slots available for that complimentary offer to meet with Simon and his team. So please, take control of your future. Pick up the phone, give them a call. Let them put your mind at ease. The number to call, 877-441-4901. I promise you, once you walk out of his office, you'll get that moment, and that's what you want. So again, thank you for being with us today. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Simon.
Thanks, Paul.
Take care, everybody.